I've just had a delivery of stuff for my kitchen. There were quite a few edible ingredients that I wasn't able to get locally, so I kind of saved up a long list of them and then put in one big order online. And I seem to remember there's at least one item that's not a food item as such, but I'm really excited to open this box up and kind of see what I've got. It was quite a long list, so I've already kind of forgotten exactly what's in here. Okay, digital thermometer. That's going to be useful for all sorts, kind of baking sometimes and also cooking meat and all sorts of things, I think. Oh wow, little jar of cane molasses. Molasses is not something I've been able to find anywhere in my kind of local area. And there's a couple of dishes that I've made where I've used muscovado sugar instead, so I'm really excited to see how this tastes. Some Thai rice noodles, that looks like. I'm going to be making pad Thai soon, so these will come in handy for that. Mango powder. I've got a few Indian recipes that use this, and I think so far I've just left it out, so that's really exciting. Aha, this is my lame, I think they're called. So this is razor blade with a handle used for scoring sourdough loaves and all sorts of bread loaves. It'll be interesting to see how this compares to the scalpel that I've been using up until now. Shrimp paste. What country is this from? Product of Thailand. So again, a couple of recipes I've been wanting to make where I haven't had this, so I've just been kind of substituting. So really excited to try this for some of my Southeast Asian recipes. We've got ajwain. Again, some of my Indian recipes use this, and I did have a little bit that my friend Rupa kind of gave me in a little baggie just for one particular day of cooking, but yeah, I needed to get some for myself. Rice flour. This is another useful type of flour for helping things not to stick, so I'll probably use it in the same way as I use my semolina. But I'm interested to see if there's other things I can try with this. And also tapioca flour. Oh, these are like the same brand. That's really cute. Yeah, I came across, I think it was a Malaysian baking recipe that I really wanted to try that used tapioca flour. So as I was doing this big order anyway, I thought I would go for a bag of this as well. Jar of mango pulp. I've recently made a few things out of this after I was given a huge jar. I think it was twice the size of this, possibly, if I'm remembering right. So yeah, I definitely wanted to make lots of those things again, so I've got myself some more of that. Sticky rice, that's another Thai ingredient. Lovely packaging again. I've only ever had one bag of sticky rice before. It took me a little while to get used to cooking it right, because it had no instructions in English on the back. This has some, so that'll be interesting to see whether they are the same as what I kind of figured out from looking it up online. But yeah, I absolutely love sticky rice. And that's very exciting. Yellow cornmeal for making cornbread. My friend Rupa recently made cornbread for the first time. It's something we had both wanted to try. I didn't know she was going to kind of make it, and she got some of this online and I was very jealous, so I had to get some for myself. I've always loved the sound of cornbread. I've never had it, so yeah, I'm looking forward to experimenting with this and also seeing what else I might be able to make with it. Today I'm making steamed scallion buns. So these are very kind of soft steamed Chinese buns, just with a kind of scallion glaze. So where I'm at right now, I've warmed a little oat milk, added my yeast and sugar. I've got dough, oil and sugar in this bowl, and I'm about to mix them together. I should add that you add the yeast to the warm milk and sugar first to let it kind of get quite active. If you leave it for sort of 5 minutes, it's a good way to tell that your yeast is alive and active, because it gets quite bubbly. I've just noticed that I'm also supposed to be adding a tablespoon of finely chopped scallions to the dough mixture, so I'm just going to prepare that. So I've roughly mixed my dough. That's going to sit for 10 minutes just to let the flour kind of fully absorb the moisture, and then it's going to have another 5 minutes of proper kneading. Then it goes through 2 rounds of proving. The first one, the dough proves for about an hour and a half, and then I shape the buns, and then there's another proof, a shorter proof, half an hour or something. This is my first time making the recipe, and I'm really excited to make it because it's been in my recipe collection for probably a couple of years now, and I've always really wanted to try it. So I'm going to serve the buns with some noodles, also a recipe that I'm making for the first time today, so I'll show you that bit as well. While my dough mixture hydrates, I've made my scallion glaze. This consists of some very finely sliced scallions, some sea salt, some sesame oil and a little bit of sugar. Just going to give this a mix. This looks absolutely amazing, all mixed up, really glossy and delicious. I actually noticed that I wasn't supposed to add scallion to the dough mixture itself. The way the recipe's written is quite confusing, but to be honest, I'm hoping it won't make much of a difference. I love the flavour of onion anyway, and I've just used a slightly lesser amount of onion for the glaze because there's some in the dough as well. I'm going to attempt to knead this dough now. It's quite wet and sticky, so we'll see how it goes. The recipe is for kneading in a machine, but I'm going to do it by hand just because I'm interested in this kind of texture of dough. It hopefully will come together into a kind of recognisable dough. I'm going to be kneading for 5 minutes. So the dough's now gone for its first proof. It is still very wet, but I kind of get the feeling this is supposed to be a wet dough, so I'm not too worried. I was able to handle it just about okay. I've decided to prove the dough using the method that's in the recipe, which is one that I've not tried before, so I thought it would be interesting to try. And that's where you can use your kind of oven not turned on, door shut, just put a tray of boiling water underneath the bowl where the dough is proving, and that generates enough kind of warmth in the enclosed space to make the dough prove. So that's what I'm trying. So the only thing left to do now is there's a dipping sauce I can make for the buns, and there's also my noodle dish to make, so I can make a start preparing ingredients for that, even though they won't be made for another few hours. I've actually seen these buns recently on Instagram where they pan fried the buns instead of steaming them in a steamer. I'm kind of weighing up at the moment whether I just steam these or whether I steam them and then when they're done kind of lightly fry them on the underside, because that can be really delicious with dumplings. So they're kind of partially steamed and partially kind of fried. I don't know, I think I'm just going to judge when I see how they look when they come out of the steamer. Here's my dipping sauce, which is very easy to make. The ingredients in this are soy sauce, sesame oil, sesame seeds, qingqiang, black vinegar, a little sugar, Shaoqing rice wine, and chili oil, just mixed together in certain proportions. My buns have rested for 10 minutes, so now I'm going to try the shaping, which is the most exciting stage, I think. Just going to take them out of the bag one at a time so that the rest stay covered. And what you're aiming for is a sort of oval, long-ish oval shape. Like this, I think. And then you're going to cut some slits in the dough, leaving a little bit at the top so they're not completely separated. Brush with the glaze. And then you sort of pinch together the two edges, fold it in on itself, and sort of twist into a knot. I mean, that's not fantastic, but hopefully the next one will be better. Yeah, the idea is that through the little slits you can see the sort of the scallions, spring onions poking out. Let's try another one. It's kind of a better knot, but you can't see many of the scallions poking out, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. There we go. Okay, another one. So I guess this is where my decision to not use quite so many scallions in the glaze is coming back to bite me a little bit, because it means there's less of them that inside to kind of poke out and make that really attractive little glimpses of green that you get. The thing with the sesame oil as well is it's hard to sort of pinch the dough together where it's got sesame oil on it. So that's maybe something to bear in mind when you're, I might wash the oil off my hands actually. That's something to bear in mind when you're brushing the oil on. You maybe don't want it to go right to the edges. Definitely the last two are the better shapes. So these are my test two. These are going to now prove in the oven over some steaming boiled water again for another 25 minutes. So I have a confession. When I was cooking the steamed scallion buns and the drunken noodles, I was actually really pressed for time, and I was getting stressed trying to film and kind of cook the meal all at the same time. So I stopped filming halfway through and I just kind of thought I will make this next week and finish up filming then. So it's now next week and I'm making the dish again, and I'm actually glad I did that because I learned a few things that I'm going to do differently this time, so that allows me to kind of tell you a little bit about them. I've already made my dough for the steamed buns. It's gone through all the stages up until shaping, so I'm about to shape them now. One thing I really decided last time was that I wanted to make my buns a little bit smaller. I also decided I wanted slightly less oil and slightly more scallions. I've also kept back some of the scallions to kind of sprinkle on at the end, which was something I missed in the recipe the first time. Just shaped my second batch of scallion buns here. Definitely made them smaller than last time. Last time they were absolutely enormous once they kind of puffed up as they steamed. So I reckon, you know, there's my hand for scale. I reckon these will be a much better size. Now they're going to proof for a little bit and then I'll start the steaming. So when I steamed these buns last time, I steamed them in my pressure cooker steamer, which is a kind of all-in-one machine. And I think I know what happened. I did 2 of them in there and I did 2 of them in the pan. Because another way you can do it is fry them in a pan, and once the bottom has some golden colour, you can pour in hot water, put a lid on and finish steaming them in the pan. And I actually tried both ways. I did 2 in the steamer machine and 2 in the pan. And the 2 in the machine didn't work very well. They came out really kind of flat. They didn't rise properly. And I think I know what I did wrong. I should have preheated the steamer because I'm used to steaming potatoes and stuff in there. You just kind of put the potatoes in and press the button and it heats up with them in there. I did that with these, and because it's a yeasted kind of dough, it needs initial high heat to rise, so they didn't rise. They were actually really delicious anyway. I ate both of them, they were great, but the two that I did in the pan were amazing. So I'm going to do them all in the pan today. My oil's heated up and I'm just about ready to put them in. You can kind of see how much they puff up already. But they puff up even more once they start steaming. Those have got lovely colour, underneath now, so I'm going to add the water and get them steaming under the lid. You can see how much they've grown, so you can imagine the last ones I made, which were even bigger. These are a great size this time. They're supposed to steam for about 13 minutes. Because they've already fried for a few minutes in the oil, I'm going to give them 10 and then check on them. I think I slightly underdid them last time, so I'm going to definitely check on them at 10 and maybe give them a couple more minutes. I've got everything ready to cook my drunken noodles. I've got pre-cooked noodles here that have been cooled, tossed in a little sesame oil and also snipped so that they're not too long. I've got my chicken here. I'm actually using pre-cooked chicken. In this recipe you do a kind of chicken marinade where you add water, soy sauce and corn flour and a little oil to the raw chicken and you let it sit for half an hour. I'm never sure when I'm using pre-cooked chicken whether there's any point in doing the marinade step or whether you should just skip it. So what I've done is a compromise. I skipped the water part. I added soy, a little oil and the cornstarch and just mix that up together, so that's been sitting for half an hour. I think the cornstarch is quite important, so I've added that. And this is my sauce here. This is a mixture of sugar dissolved in some hot water, 2 types of soy sauce, pepper, fish sauce, and it's supposed to also have oyster sauce, which I don't have at the moment, so I've just skipped that. We've also got ginger, garlic, scallion or spring onion, chilies and some onion there. Last time I made this, so it was made with shallot. Sergio felt like the shallot was too overpowering. I didn't mind it, but so what I'm doing this time is I'm using a different type of onion and much less of it, so hopefully that will help. Yeah, ginger, there's Shad-Ching rice wine as well that goes in towards the end. And basil, I'm supposed to use Thai basil, which I also don't have, so I'm using regular basil. It's not really the same, but I don't really have any option. And also this came in the post this week. This is MSG, which we have bought before, but not for ages. I'm really excited to use it. It's kind of suitable for quite a lot of Asian dishes. Anything that's kind of got that umami factor of the kind of a meat thing like chicken, anything with soy. One thing with this is that you can end up using less salt because this kind of has a similar effect of intensifying all the flavours. So that's a nice way to use a little bit less salt. I'm going to experiment with this today. Probably going to add half a teaspoon and then just be careful with the salt. So this is kind of ready to go now.